All right, so this is going to be advanced marketing, getting the listings. So I'm pretty passionate about this side of the business. It's something that I've been able to grow up to. At one point I think I had 200 listings. So that's not the recommended, nearly recommended, by the way. You can do it a little bit better by screening the appointments and not taking every listing. But for a long time, I thought it was all about, get every listing, and I still think there's some value in that as you're building a brand to take over a marketplace and having lots of listings. But we actually even broke down the cost it was to acquire a listing in my marketplace. We actually broke down the amount of square footage that every employee occupied that had something to do with taking the listing, the amount of water divided by that amount of square foot, all the way down to every single piece of paper that a copy was made of, the file folder and everything, to determine what does it cost when we take a listing that doesn't sell. So in an effort to be more profitable. And what we learned was, man, we got to quit taking listings that don't sell, right? So there's a lot of reasons why you got to really be able to present your case, as we talked about, with that certified home selling advisor, and being able to really get the property price right and things of that nature. But when you start trying to step out of the business, as I was, when you just take listings that don't sell, there's a lot of money invested in that. So this is going to be all about how to get those listings, but you still have to pay attention. So it's not take every single listing. You want to run a profitable business. It has to be someone that matches and has motivation and is going to be really willing to invest in one way or another into the process. So it's not about taking every listing, but this presentation is going to be about how to get all those opportunities. So going from 0 to 100 plus listings, this is going to be the step-by-step plan to do that. So if I was to just drop into a market and start to build my business, these are the ways that I would do it, and I'm really going to break down. And I've talked about it in a couple different places, but it'll be good for you to hear some of this again, but exactly how we do it. So really, we're looking at this. You're in the oil business, and if you don't have a refinery operating, it's hard to use the oil that is available. So having the systems in place to do this is going to be important. And really, what we want in our business is oil wells. So as oil well, and what I mean by oil wells is once you get something up and running, you want it to keep running. So we've talked a lot about how you start doing some things and then you stop and you start and then you stop. And a lot of those things would be working. And I'm going to cover some of the reasons why we make some of those decisions. We kind of self-sabotage ourselves. And we'll cover how to fix that as well. So these are some of the common mistakes. Let's see, no personal brand to attach to. Not having your picture on your sign. I wanted to mention that because I get this question a lot, so I wanted to throw this out there, and I'll come back to that here in a second. Not having a competitive advantage or differentiation. Not using direct response. So when you start, just mailing, I save a lot of mailers that I get at my house from agents that are trying to, direct mail and whatever, and there's absolutely no call to action in the marketing. So direct response is important. In everything that you do, you should expect and be able to measure a return on that investment for that marketing piece. Not using trust-based marketing methods, which we discussed day one. Not having the systems in place to keep the oil wells working. So once you start doing something and then you move on to the next thing, then that one quits working. So that's important. Not having tracking in place to track all the success. Not having a clear plan of how many listing appointments per day, per week, per month you need to hit your target. So those are just a list of those. And when it comes down to the branding, I've yet to see a really, really successful company brand just the company. And Dan Kennedy, we've asked him this in a couple of different situations, trying to figure out, well, can we do this? Should I put my name on it? I can't sell my company if it's just all about me. And it really is going to be hard to sell a company if it's branded to Jay Kinder, I think, in my face, right? So, I'm not really interested in selling my company, especially if it's profitable. I really don't have a need to sell it, so why would I? But if you are interested in selling that, this is always a question that comes up. Should I put my brand, my face all over it, or should I not? And here's what we learned. All this trust-based marketing, you don't trust the company. You trust a person. You don't recommend the company as much as you'll recommend a person or suggest a person. So there has to be some personality And until I'm brave enough to try this without that, that's just the story I'm going to stick to here. So I believe that you are the brand, you are what makes it tick. It's your business, your core values, that you should have that as a part of everything you do. So there's something that they attach it to, and there's a face they can attach it to, and there's a personality. I'm not involved in my business. People don't get to see me in the day-to-day business, yet they refer me, they talk about me, it runs as if it were me running it, right? So I think that's just worth mentioning. That's my take on it. And it's actually Dan Kennedy's take on it. So resource allocation. You heard a little bit about this from Mike the last couple of days. So you have to delegate everything that isn't face-to-face with sellers and have the pick-headed discipline to only do work that pays a minimum of $500 an hour. So, this is really, how about Darren Hardy? Was he not freaking off the chain, by the way? Dude, that guy is amazing. Oh, he was awesome. So, yeah, we're going to have a hard time trying to freaking overdo that next year. So, that was amazing. Love that guy. So, this kind of, what made me think of that was this echo. This really just echoes what he was saying too, right? So, you can't do things that are unproductive in your business. We've talked about it. I think, hopefully we've made this point pretty clear. But you got to start thinking about the things that you're doing on a regular basis and get things off your plate that are not worth your time. And you have to value your time. Pig-headed discipline. Relentless. The king is painting the stripes on the road. That's not good. So, force multiplier. Have we talked about force multiplier at all? Does anybody know what force multiplier is? All right, this will be a good one then. This will be very valuable. So, I typed up a whole lot on this, so I'm just going to read it. So, force multiplication in the military usage refers to an attribute or a combination of attributes which make a given force more effective than that same force would be without it. In effect, to have a maximum impact on the target, this is also known as combined arms or swarming. Military swarming is a behavior where units of action attack an enemy from several different directions and then regroup. So, essentially, it's from the land, from the sea, sneak attack, from the ground troops, every possible way to hit a target to have the maximum impact on that target, right? So swarming tactics, how they work. Swarming is a tactic that when used increases trust through familiarity and increases the response rate of each individual effort. So in all of the things that we're going to talk about, you can get a certain response by just making phone calls. You can increase the response of the phone call by having a direct mail package that goes out. You can increase all three by having email, knock the door, drop, parachute into their backyard. Basically, anything that you can do to increase that maximum impact, and then exponentially it goes up. The conversion goes up, right? So when you build oil wells, that's what we're doing. We want to get one oil up. We won't just start making calls and then setting appointments for sale by owners and expireds. You want to get it up and going, and you want to have direct mail in place, and you want to have every possible system in place, and you want to optimize that down to absolutely the most maximum way you can get the best impact on and return from that particular area before you move on to the next one. So instead of spray and pray like we talked about day one, where a just sold card one time to a neighborhood doesn't get any response, you're going to want to, if you're going to do that, you're going to want to hit them with that and a phone call and knock the door and everything if you're going to get the maximum return from that effort. Does that all make sense? You guys aren't very responsive after lunch. Luckily, I'm going to keep going, and I'm not going to beg y'all for responses right now, so I know y'all are wore out because it's been a long 3 days, hasn't it? A lot of stuff to download. Okay, so swarming techniques. You can swarm an area or an individual. So direct mail cannonball. That's my new term for this. I like it. It's a cannonball. And there's a book by I lost it. It's Great by Choice. Good to great. Thank you. It's been a long 3 days. So Jim Collins wrote a book called Great by Choice, and he talks about first shoot bullets, then cannonballs. And he's talking about, and I'm going to give the reverse of that. He says shoot bullets, then cannonballs, because a lot of companies just fire cannonballs and then, and see what happens. So you put a lot of resources into something, fire a cannonball, and it doesn't work, and you're like, but once you fire a bullet first and see how that goes, and then fire cannonballs, right? So in this, we're going to talk about the different. We're going to hit them with a cannonball first. So the cannonball is essentially your direct mail piece that you mail out specifically, I've been hanging out over here. It feels awkward. I feel like I'm leaving you guys out. It's not on purpose. It's because all my copies on these slides right here. So, direct mail bullets continuously. Okay, direct mail cannonball, magazine tear sheet, a book, celebrity endorsements, free reports, market reports, expert advisor newsletter, direct mail bullets. Continuously branded oversized postcards for weeks and weeks and weeks at a time. Those are something that we do. We'll talk a little bit more about all this here in a second. Driving incoming calls and or online to videos, autoplay, webinars, meet with the author video, telemarketing, outbound calls. So these are just some of the ideas that you can apply to a particular marketing strategy. And we're going to look at all the ways that you can get listings. Every single thing that I've ever done that worked, I think. I don't think I forgot anything. So we'll see. Swarming techniques, email, Facebook, branded target ads. We'll look at that a little bit too as well. Door hangers in the area, wrapped vehicle, face-to-face, multiple signs and branded directionals, branded open house signs, and any kind of recon. So one of the things that I would do if I was in a marketplace where I didn't have a whole lot of listings is I'd make sure I got a lot of signs for directionals, and every time I got a listing, I would talk to every person on the major corner intersections. And then we did this for a long time in my market until I became very well known, where we would put signs up on every corner of every major thoroughfare and just get continuous branding, right? So a lot of the reasons I grew kind of big and fast was because when I started doing some major branding, I had a lot of signs everywhere with my face on them, and they just couldn't drive anywhere without driving past one of my signs. It's familiarity. So when you go back to the principle, I didn't know why I was doing it when I did it. I just wanted to, drive more traffic or whatever, but I was creating familiarity, and that's the principle of building trust. So the more that I would do things like that, the more my other advertising would work, right? So I used to say this a lot, and I felt it, but I didn't know why it was working. So I was like, man, if you do something like billboards and radio together, it seems to work a lot better, right, than if you just did one. So what it was familiarity. It's the compounding effect of people hearing and seeing you multiple times. So we'll talk again some more about that in a second. So there's billboards, outdoor signage near the target area. We actually have a billboard up near one of my target areas. We'll look at all that stuff here in a second too. Cars left behind in houses. I used to do this. This is a kind of a sneaky trick. So if you're wanting to dominate an area and it's in the houses, I almost feel bad saying this. Maybe you should, maybe you shouldn't do this. You should show the house if you have a buyer anywhere close, right? But leaving cars behind in a house that is about to expire is another way to get some familiarity. If you're trying to dominate an area, you should be previewing the house as soon as it gets listed anyways. And any chance you have to show it, you should show it. And when it does expire, it's just going to be that much more ahead of the game whenever you do give them a call and go after them. Attend HOA events if there's an area that you're targeting that has a homeowners association. Sponsor school teams and have them do door hangers for donations. So we used to get hit up all the time with softball teams and people coming in, baseball teams wanting us to donate. Does anybody get that? It's like we get calls all the time on that. So what we did was we actually would say, yeah, we'll donate, but here's what we want you guys to do. We want you guys to go deliver these door hangers out in one of our target areas, and we would have their whole team out there promoting for us, right? So it's way better than a stupid ad in the back of the school calendar, thing that they mail out. Way better than an ad on the, out there on the, on the baseball field or whatever. You get a lot more, because they're all telling their parents and everything, and they're all driving them around, and they're out there, basically putting door hangers out in your whole neighborhood for you. So some free labor out of it, and it's a donation, and it's kind of cool way to do it. So sponsoring the school teams, that's it, we're good there. I think I'm out of swarming techniques yet. So these are all things you can do to maximize the impressions you're making on whatever the target is. So when I say it could be an individual, or it's the whole entire, target that you're going after and we'll talk about this a little bit more, but there are people that you can swarm and have influence over, and then there's the entire neighborhoods you may want to swarm, or target areas you may want to swarm, or really an area of business like FSBO or Aspire, you can swarm that whole arena of business, right? So anyway, so trust triggers, authority, doctor, lawyer. I just want to go through these again because hopefully this kind of ties it all together. We've talked about, all this. It's been 2 days. A lot of stuff has been downloaded since then. But I want to go through these trust triggers again because I think you're getting more familiar with what it is that we're about, what we're doing. And I think this will help just kind of refresh your memory. And as we look at some of the marketing that we're doing and why some of it works, and some of the examples that I'll have here, you'll be able to kind of put it all together, hopefully. So authority, the doctor, the lawyer, accountant, police officer. Affinity, shared background, experience, philosophy, fraternity. Credibility, which is factual basis for trust. Longevity, years in the business, in the community. Celebrity, being known for something. Familiarity, reassuring omnipresence. Frequency, the more often heard and seen, the more easily trusted. Second party transferal, earned, engineered, borrowed, rented, purchased endorsement. So NAEA is a little bit of that for you guys, right? So place, geographic or target market, being for a certain customer. Demonstration, seen as believing. So mind share. If someone asks your prospect, who's the number one real estate expert in the area, are you the number one or number two name that comes out of their mouth? And then that's when you have succeeded. So there's no third place. This is a two-horse race. So in most markets, that's kind of the case. Or if it's a group of individuals that you're marketing to, there is always going to be a number one or number two. You could be number one or number two in your market. I'm number two in my market. There's no third place, I can assure you. There's not even a freaking chance that there's someone coming behind us. There's a number one, and they're a really big number one. They're doing 600 transactions, RE/MAX team, living miserable lifestyles in my opinion, but they are crushing it, and I have nothing but respect for the work ethic that they have because I couldn't do it. I would go insane. So I love that we have that competitor, and we're number two, and I'm cool with that. So there's more than enough houses to be sold. The same thing can be said for who has the market share of the Chamber of Commerce, right? The business owners of the community. If you were to ask every single one of them, who's the number one real estate expert advisor in the marketplace, would your name be number one or two in their minds? So if you went into the top neighborhood that you're wanting to dominate, are you the number one or number two in that particular market? If you went to everybody who, let me think of a good affinity one. If you went to Rotary Club, or is everybody that's a member of Rotary think of you number one or number two as a real estate expert? So all of these different groups that you can have mind share of have different benefits and ways to grow your business. So I'll show you strategically kind of how I did it in my business, and you can take that for what it's worth and how you want to grow your business. What's the one thing that you want them to associate with you? So this is from Jack Trout's book on branding. You really only have one thing you can really get them to think about when they think about you. They're going to think about you and immediately associate something, and you want to know what that is. And you really want to be positioned as the expert advisor. So I was lucky to do this early on in the business on accident. Didn't do it on purpose. I mailed out that market report, and all of a sudden I was kind of branded as the kind of guy that knew the market. It was pretty awesome. So the expert advisor and being the trusted expert advisor is where you want to be in the position in the mind of the prospect. So cash conversion cycle. Who feels like they have a really good grasp on this? Man, you guys are asleep. So nobody knows what cash conversion cycle is, because if you don't, you're going to go home and fail. Okay? This is the one you want to pay attention to. I promise. This, and I'll have a story to tell after I explain it. The reason I'm so passionate about this one. So when it comes down to marketing, there's a cost to acquire there's a cost to acquire the client. But when we make these decisions today, you guys have been here for 3 days, you know everything that's here is legit and is going to help you grow your business. But when you make that investment, the real question you should ask yourself always is, how long is it going to be before I get a return on that investment? So one of the biggest challenges is in real estate is determining, well, if I spend $1,000 a month, $1,000 this month, $1,000 next month, $1,000 this month, $1,000 this month, 5 months down the road, if you're going after listings and the average days on the market is 90 days, you're probably, and it takes you, 30 to 60 days maybe for whatever it is you're working on to start working. If it was a mailer, that would be very reasonable. It could be right away, it could be, a little while before you get a house listed. How long before those houses go under contract and before you actually get paid one commission, right? So if one commission is worth $5,000 and you spent $1,000 a month for 5 months and you broke even 5 months later. And what happened to me was I would start freaking out because cash flow, right? It's $1,000 a month, but I didn't really think about the context of how long it was going to be before I got the cash back in the account. So if you're taking your money out of the operations of your business and you're paying for things that are an investment that are not going to pay back immediately right away, then it starts to put a little bit of a cash crunch. And what I start to do is I started to freak out. It started to drive me crazy. I'm like, oh shoot, why are we not making more money than that? The account's going, and everything we did. And the particular example I'm going to talk about, it was a $10,000 a month investment. It took 8 months to break even. So you probably don't want to test that one right away. And I'll play you an example of it, which is even better. So this is the cash conversion cycle. So yeah, the beginning cash, it's important to understand when you know what the cycle is. If it's going to be 3 months or 6 months or 8 months or whatever it's going to be, having the cash to invest in it is an important. Otherwise, it's a risk, and it's okay to take risks. Mike made that very clear this morning. So beginning cash, investing in the marketing, generate the listing. Listing goes under contract. The listing has to close. To replace the original investment. Okay, how many ever months that you had to have until you had that first closing. Then you start to calculate the return on investment after that ongoing, and then you reinvest the profits back into the next idea. Is that all very clear to everybody? Don't go out there and do everything all at once, because number one, priority-wise, you already have heard from Mike on that. That will help you tremendously, and we're going to help tie it all together at the end for you, hopefully. But this is just something to pay close attention to, because if we get excited about all the things there are to do, and all of it's going to make money, but if you don't pay attention to this, it's going to make you miserable, and you're going to freak out about your cash, about your money situation as you're growing your business, and it's going to be more risky. And if something happens, it's a threat that could take you out. So just pay attention to that when you're making that decision. How long is it going to take, and how long are you willing to do it? And also, some of these things that you can be more involved in. So, for instance, like Dwayne, who was up here, that tool can be offset automatically. So it could be at the top of the list because it's not going to really be much of an investment, and you get your cash right away if you go get a lender, right? So just keep that in mind. This is just a process that I didn't understand before, and I didn't ever apply it, and I just bought everything. And if I had not done that, I probably would have had a little bit more money in the bank while I was growing my business. Do we have a TV commercial on there? So this is also an example of what not to do, by the way. I'm just making that very clear.
Bringing more to the table. When we sit down together, you'll hear our guarantee. We'll buy your home if we don't sell. Call us and you'll see. Bringing more to the table. When you buy or sell your home, we're the J. Kinder Home Selling Team. Bringing more to the table. We're the J. Kinder Home Selling Team.
I promise you don't even want to hear it a second time, do you? And we ran this on radio, and I made it about a week, and I said, we got to stop this. This is ridiculous. And it was the investment was $80,000 before I had made enough, and it was actually working, kind of. It could have been done so much better, but the jingle just when I say we bought everything, we bought everything. There's nothing that you could sell me that I have not tried, I promise. So don't necessarily do that. And it's not to say that you wouldn't do TV, because TV is actually a very good media, and it's a high trust media, and there's reasons it was working. But what I didn't understand was that I wasn't ready to light a match to 80 grand. So when, as 10,000 a month, 10,000 a month, 10,000 a month, 10,000 a month is coming out of your account, and things are rocking and rolling, and then all of a sudden it's going like this and like this and like this and like this. What I didn't realize was, and this was while the market was shifting, so the days on the market was just getting longer. So like even if you got a price reduction, next week it was still overpriced again. You're like, oh, and if you're chasing the market downhill, you're just screwed. Like, so nothing was selling. I got like 150 listings, and that's climbing, which is not a good thing. That didn't help. Everybody's pissed off. Nothing is moving, and there's a lot of challenges, right? So you got to pay attention to the cash conversion cycle on things, and don't do jingles. That's the lesson learned. So So I talked about this. I'm going to briefly discover it. The reason why in real estate this is such a big opportunity for us, because in most businesses you have to buy the product or make the product, and then you have to sell the product. So if you had a car lot, you'd have to buy the car, sell it for more than what you bought it for, and whatever is above that is what you would have as your gross margin to be profitable with. And then you got to pay all your expenses for managing the car lot and the air conditioning and the water and everything else that you've got, and your marketing, advertising, acquire clients. And you have that little bit of extra money, right? So in real estate, we get to keep all the money, right? Every penny. So whatever your commission is, and again, if it's if you have a split with a broker or whatever, hopefully you have a good one, but you have the ability to keep all the money, right? So we don't have a product that we have to put on a shelf anywhere, and we don't have to have carrying costs for any of that. So we have a really unique opportunity. That's why there's so many of us in here that are making a lot of freaking money, because it's a really great opportunity. So I love this about real estate. So looking at market domination strategy, and we're going to go into these into detail so you don't have to write them all down right now. Expired listings for sale by owners, past clients, sphere of influence, database, buyer leads with homes to sell, motivated seller leads, your key centers of influence, targeted direct mail, and then we'll get into some of the more broad media, the big stuff. So here's rule number 1, expired listings. So I'm going to give you the pros and cons of these just so you know. Cash conversion cycle, maybe 2 to 4 months if you get it priced right. You list it. If it sells right away, that's great. It's going to close in 60 days. That's 2 months. If it sells in 90 days, it's going to go to 4 months or whatever. So cost to acquire the lead, bingo, big deal. 0, no cost to acquire the lead. I like that. It's going to be first every time. Funny how Darren Hardy said that, right? So borrowed authority. That's what that was. There's another example. Good practice. Have fun with them. That's important. I like getting hung up on it. It's fun. It's a game. It's just like Darren said. Go for no. Get him to say. When he said it in the interview, I caught it, and it was a big aha for me. I didn't like failing. Did not like it. But it is. It's when you delight in it. It's when you wake up every day going, man, I just got to go. If I can get 10 expired today to tell me no, then I've been successful today. When you look at it that way, then I don't want to do this isn't there, right? So that was a big aha for me. I never liked doing it. I just was willing to do it anyway. So I had that part down, but I wasn't delighting in it by any means. And that's a real big mind shift I think we kind of have to really try to grasp, because it's important. It'll make it where this is just part of being successful. Okay, so they're typically highly motivated. So if they've been on the market for a period of time and they didn't sell, they're probably going to be pretty highly motivated in most cases. They hate AFAs, and so do we. So you have something in common with them. They just want to be told what to do. They're already agreed to pay an agent a commission. So they've already pretty much, like the perfect possible client, right? They're like more motivated. They hate AFAs, and if you can differentiate yourself, they're freaking really easy to get along with, and they love you, and they make great referral or great clients and give you great referrals because they've had a bad experience. They're like, and if they didn't listen to the first agent, let's say they had a good agent that was telling them all the things they didn't listen, this time they're even more willing to listen. So these are just it's an oil well. It's the first oil well you should have in your business. If I'm parachuting into a new market, I'm going right after these every single time. If there aren't any, I might go back a couple of years. And I might pull up and see what didn't sell the last couple of years. Let me see if I can get some of those on the market. How many of these homes went into rental management that maybe you can get a hold of and potentially sell? So there's a couple of ways to do this, but when you start thinking about how do I dominate this with the force multiplier effect, you don't just start calling them and that's it. We have a postcard campaign, and you want to mail them the cannonball with and send them out the branding pieces and everything you can do to have maximum impact on the target. My goal is my package is heavier than the other guys. So the challenge, what we found with we used to mail a lot of letters, and some of them will get good results. And pretty much in real estate, anything that you do for 13 weeks or longer is longer than anyone else will probably ever do. So you did something successful just in being able to consistently mail out 13 of anything. I can assure you it'll get a better response, right? So that's one thing. But the challenge with opening letters is there's a lot that goes into direct marketing. Let me tell you, there is a million ways to get it wrong. You do one thing wrong on the envelope or on the label and how you send it out, and all of a sudden you get no open rate because people sort their mail over the trash can, right? Bill, 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 trash, trash, trash. So, they're never going to read it, and you didn't get anything out of it. There's no mileage for a letter that's in an envelope that's unbranded. They didn't see anything. You didn't make one impression. So when we're talking about impressions and mindshare, if they see your billboards and you're mailing a letter that's inside an envelope that's probably not going to get opened, then you didn't get any mileage out of that mailer, right? So we use branded postcards. And the reason we use branded postcards is even on the way to the trash can, we're at least getting the impression. And if it has a good enough headline, then they'll maybe read it, right? So that's the reason it works. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay. Rule number 2. So here's the tool. At the bottom, I just put the tools that you use to execute expireds. The Expert Advisor Market Reports, obviously. The RedX, the tool we use for that. Infusionsoft, really the Storm Dialer should be on here. And the scripts from NAEA, right, and your competitive advantage. So there's that. So rule number 2 for sale by owner. Same thing, pros and cons. Cash conversion, same thing, 2 to 4 months generally. There sometimes is a little bit longer courting period for sale by owners, so you just got to stay in touch with them a little bit longer because they're not quite ready to give up on their dream of thinking they're going to sell it on their own, right? So it may take a little bit longer, but it's worth it. So no cost to acquire the lead again, love it. They put a sign in their yard, and somebody gave me this example a long time ago. They said, what if the car industry was, imagine this, in the car industry, if you put a sign in your yard that said, I'm thinking about buying a brand new car, do you think that the car industry would just forget, I'm not going to do anything with these at all. We're not even going to go knock on these people's door. We're not going to mail them or call them or anything. Hell no. In the car industry, you have cars dropped off at your house every 5 minutes. People would be dropping off cars trying to get you to drive them, right? So why do we drive by for sale by owners? I'll never forget. And I told this story earlier this week. Does anybody remember a guy by the name of Roger Butcher? He used to do seminars and workshops all across the country. I told you I buy everything. That's right. So this guy's old school, big time. He was old whenever I was just getting in the business, and it was in Norman, Oklahoma, and I was sitting through this guy's seminar, and he's talking about going, by never, ever, ever drive by a for sale by owner without getting a phone number, right? Ingrained in me early on. So literally, I leave this guy's seminar at lunch. I shit you not, I did this, I promise. I drove around I called my dad. I said, Dad, this is unbelievable. I can't believe this. I'm driving around in Norman. I'm calling for sale by owners, and I'm just going to get referrals on these deals, right? So, I was totally bought in, and I was driving around, and I was trying to find for sale by owners in Norman on my lunch break. That's how freaking excited this guy got me about calling for sale by owners. Never, ever since then, I see a for sale by owner. I'm like, break. Almost every time. He said, don't ever drive by without getting a phone number. And that was instilled in me kind of early. So it became a real part of why I was successful because, there are a lot of for sale by owners over the years, right, to practice on. So don't not do that. Does that even make sense? All right. There's a 90% chance they're going to listen anyway, so you might as well just be you. They're free. The next one that I would go after, this is if I was to parachute into a brand new market. So past client sphere of influence. If you already have a book of, this wouldn't be a situation if I was parachuting into a new market because I wouldn't have a past client or potential sphere. So if you do, and you're not in a brand new market, this would be number 3. I wouldn't do it number 1 or 2, but I would want to put this in place as soon as possible. The cash conversion cycle, a little bit of a challenge here. If it's 4 to 6 months, it would be a little bit longer, and it could be a little bit longer than that. Depending on how well executed. Cost to acquire the lead, 0. I like that. So we're still not spending money on acquiring the lead. They already know, like, and trust you. Repeat business potential and repeat and referral business is very potential, right? So if you have a large database of people that already know, like, and trust you, that you haven't been consistently staying in touch with and positioning yourself as an expert and being professionally relevant and personally relevant, then this would be my number 3, especially if it's large, because there's way more opportunity there than you can possibly mine. So I would want to start investing in that now and trying to mine that database. Same thing, tools. Really the same tools on all those. And it says FSBO scripts, so that was on the other one. So not really scripts involved in that one. There is a process you go through and kind of reconnecting with some of these people, but we won't get into that here today. Oil well number 4. And again, the key is if you get this built up and going, that it's not you that has to make that oil run, right? So you're starting to delegate some of the activities and as far as building the systems in place for that to where you're only on the phone or face-to-face. You know, you want to do, eventually I delegated enough out of my business to where I would grab the file on the way out and I'd have appointments at like 1, 3, 5, and 7. I would take away the 7 if I was to do it again. But 1, 3, 5, and 7, we scheduled appointments only on those times. And I would go out and I'd grab the file on the way out and I'd run out the door and I'd get there and I'm driving down the road and I'm like, okay, who are these people? I'd read the seller counseling interview. I'd get to the door. That's not really the research that I should have done probably, but most everything was there for me. And I would give the presentation and then I would set a second appointment or I would list it right there. And then I got too lazy and I didn't like filling out all that paperwork. So I would set a second appointment almost on every situation, have them come back into the office, meet with someone in my office. They would do the paperwork and then I would only have about 30 minutes with them. So I got to the point where I delegated about everything but 30 minutes at a time. So I wasn't doing anything really but that face-to-face, kind of what Darren was talking about, right? So you can delegate a lot of this whole process that we're talking about, and you get paid a lot of money by doing this part of the job. This is what you get paid for. So I even delegated, though, the one thing that was a difference than what Darren had done was we delegated to Carla, who's been presenting my offers for I don't even know how many years now. How many years has it been, Carla, this year? She may not be there probably, but I think they may be out by the pool. I'm not sure. So, so she's been with me. I don't even know. It's probably been 7, 4, 5. Oh wow, yeah, it's probably been almost 10 years. So she's been with me a long time. So she was presenting all my offers for me, and at first it was a challenge. They wanted to hear from me. And at first she would create the offer package and everything and give it to me, and then I would call, and then she would come in and handle it. And then it got to the point where I would just position her as the expert, and she would present the offer, and then I didn't even have to do that anymore. They didn't even have to hear from me. So you can delegate even that aspect of it. When I got involved was when I changed the outcome. If the deal wasn't getting accepted or the deal was going to fall apart on an offer, I would call in and I would try to save the day. And that had to happen a few times. So, sometimes they just need to hear it in a certain way to accept the offer or to make a good counteroffer. Motivated seller leads, I love these. Some people don't. I love them. They're my favorite because they are the most motivated seller lead there is, and the cost to acquire these leads have been pretty low historically. Dwayne Legate owns a company called House Buyer Network. Many of you are probably clients of his. If not, and the area is open, you probably should be. It's a low cost. I'm going to say an average that I paid over the years between $75 and $100 per lead. And there are people who say that they want to sell their house for cash, right? Who could be more motivated? And I can assure you that filling out a form online is not the fastest way to sell your house for the most amount of money. We just had a situation that Carrie and Stace were involved in at my office where they wanted to sell their house for cash. We got the lead. We called. Stace sold the house that day for $7,000 more than what they had an offer on it already, and we made our commission in the middle. Same day. So that was a pretty cool deal. But, they're highly motivated. So I bought several of those homes because they were in a situation where it's just the house was trash. And they're like, I just want out. I don't want to spend a penny. And it probably wasn't ever going to sell. And they just wanted me to buy it. And I'm cool with that. I'll buy it if it's a good deal. So that's how I've picked up quite a few properties over the years. And also, you can wear two hats. As an advisor, let me tell you what you should do. You should spend a whole bunch of money and fix this house up and do it right. And then, you can sell it, and here's what you would net. As an investor, here's what I would give you, right? And you just do the math for them, and they'll either make a decision one way or the other. It's pretty simple. We've actually taken these yellow bandit signs, and they're handwritten. We'll handwrite on them, looking to buy in this neighborhood, 4-bedroom only, call this number. And you got to put your little, real estate stuff on there. But so those actually work pretty well if you do that, and you put them in certain neighborhoods where you're trying to target. You can get people to call you in that way. The buying the leads is easier. So, anyways, the cost per lead $100. Let's see if I have left anything out here. Motivated before they even listen. Oh, so they listen to price. So if they do list with you, they'll listen to your price. Whatever you tell them to price at, they'll do. Good opportunities to double in listings. I just gave an example of that. Good purchase opportunities. Typically don't question your fee. Very true. That's pretty much it. So short cash conversion cycle when they do go under contract and sell quick. Right? Rule number 6, key people of influence. I did this one on accident, but it became definitely a big part of my business. Pros and cons, cash conversion cycles longer, way longer. People of influence are not going to trust you right away, so they're going to be start sending you deals right away, it seems like, been my experience. Cost per listing, 0. These are connectors. That's what I love about the Chamber of Commerce list. This is a great list to mail to. They're like-minded. They understand entrepreneurship. They totally get what we're doing is the way we have this system set up. So it's definitely impressive. So that, as you get this talk off down and you're sharing it with people that run a business, they've never heard anything like it in real estate, they start getting excited about your business too. So your enthusiasm is contagious in these situations. So you want to go to those chamber events. You want to get to know who the owners of companies are and be involved at that level in your community. It is an important part of it. I ended up being on the board of directors at the chamber and doing a whole lot of stuff because of that. And I grew a lot as a person and as a leader because of that, and joined leadership programs I probably never would have. And it's just been really good. So definitely something you should do. They make great testimonials. So anytime you get a business owner that owns a company, again, we were talking about that list of trust triggers. Anytime you get somebody who owns a business, who is a person of influence that's endorsing you, man, you got to get as much of that as you can. If their company is well known, so like we had a Goodyear paperboard plant, and we have a lot of military officers and things of that nature. Use that in your marketing, and anytime you're marketing it to, you're marketing to that niche or someone of affinity, of a similar affinity. You're going to be able to just have a maximum rapport and familiarity in that situation. So use those things as you get them. So don't let those things slip by. A lot of times we get busy, we're selling a lot of houses, and you're like, man, I can't believe that. And who was it that was telling me that Damon Dash, the guy that owned Rockaware with Jay-Z or whatever, came in their office. I don't know if he's in here or not right now. But it was a pretty cool story. Dude's worth a lot of money. It'd be pretty cool to have him in your office. I'd like to get a testimonial. He said he brought his entourage with all their bikinis on and everything. But anytime you can get those testimonials is great. Celebrities, local celebrities. We had a guy and there's a lot of local celebrities these days, right? So, reality celebrities, if you will. But we had a guy that was Grady Brewer who won the ultimate, what was it? It was the boxing deal. I can't even remember what it's called now. He was a celebrity for about 6 weeks maybe, but he was a good testimonial. So. Number 7, targeted direct mail. This is more expensive, and it takes a little bit longer to really nail it down. But again, if you're taking all these ideas with force multiplier approach, where if you're going to direct mail a neighborhood, you better be driving. And I have a wrapped Hummer, and that's actually what it looks like now. Oh no, it doesn't. It actually looks worse than that now. But that was when it was a Coldwell Banker. We kind of cheesy wrapped it to try to cover that, and it didn't look that great. But so we got that. We got a moving truck, and we've got a transit that does the signs and stuff. So driving through first of all, I live in Pecan Valley, so that's huge. So it was, and I didn't drive it every day, but having it driving around the neighborhood, big deal. So if you're going to mail, and Dan Kennedy gives an example in his book where a plumber does this, and before they do the mailing, they go, park at along at different houses. You might be careful in real estate. Everybody's gonna be like, why are you sitting in front of my house? But I'm not sitting. No, we're not moving. That you might piss them all off doing that, but. Having familiarity, again, just trying to own that marketplace. If you're going to go after it big time. Don't just go after it with one mailer and think that's going to work, right? So, Dan Kennedy was talking about how if you're not, I lost it. I saw my timer. I'm out of time. I totally lost it. My bad. We'll come back to it. Going to do the circle again. So direct mail is, you can own a neighborhood, own a group. Once you own it, it's a deep oil well. That's what I like the most about direct mail. Once you own a neighborhood, you don't get dethroned very easily, because every listing you get, begets another listing, and then when you start using testimonials and adding that to your postcards and mailing them out, and then you're doing other just solds it doesn't even have to be the same neighborhood, just send a just sold and a testimonial. And the more you do it, the more you can just weed out everybody out of the market. So people just won't list with anyone else. So once you get there, it's really worth it, because then you can pull back a little bit. It's not near as hard to keep it once you get there. The last one is big print and media. I've done a lot of this over the years. So cash conversion cycle, sometimes 5 to 10 months, depending on exactly what it is. High visibility, depending on where it is, obviously, and how far it is off the road. There's a lot of ways to screw up billboards. So you should just call me before you do billboards, because it is really actually quite complex as to how well it'll work and how much it won't work if you screw up just the littlest details. So you can, potential to own a particular segment. At this level, you can offset expenses. This is kind of the cool thing, and I think you've heard it in a couple different ways. And you can offset your expenses. Once you get to the level where that you're starting to do mass media, you have the ability to start bringing in other people to invest in the business, like the lender, the title company, the carpet cleaner, the plumber, the electrician, and all those people. So we have a vendor program, and we actually add value back to that network of people that are benefiting from being a part of all these real estate deals that we're doing. So as you start to grow, you start to look at this as a revenue stream for people that are benefiting from your business. So how many of you would take a 25% referral if I was to send you 3 deals a month? Okay, well, guess what? All these people that you're giving them deals would also be willing to do the same. Is that a fair assessment? So if they're going to be a part of your business, if they're going to be getting referrals from you, why is there not some kind of a partnership where y'all are working together? If they provide superior service than everyone else, like they all claim, which is just a standard for being in business, it doesn't mean you should get my referrals, then why shouldn't we be working together to grow together? Because we both benefit, right? So it's a mindset thing, but once you start getting to this level, people buy into your vision and they want to be a part of it. So we did a good example of this morning in the Q&A too. But that's pretty much it. The last little bonus here is just Facebook ads. This is something we're testing. So I wouldn't go out there and do this. This is like a squirrel, so I'm going to give you a cool squirrel. This is pretty cool, actually. You can go onto Facebook and you can search for someone who has liked a particular school page. I mentioned that the first day. You could go on and find somebody who's in a particular market or likes a particular, maybe you have a local dog groomer or whatever, and maybe you like dogs or whatever, so that's an affinity. If you both love animals, that's an affinity. And if you have a picture with you and your dog, they're going to like you a lot more than someone who doesn't have a picture with a dog. Does that make sense? So it's a freaky kind of way of marketing, but it's called the psychographic and the demographic. So there's all kinds of things and here's just a couple of simple examples that we basically put on there. So if I wanted to target all the Republicans in my marketplace and Jay Kinder votes Republican or whatever, and do a little download on why you should vote Republican or whatever, and every Republican that liked anything to do with the political side of things, pages that we can seek that out. You can find that easily on Facebook. You just click down and choose them. They're not even gonna know why that ad was there, but they're gonna be like, man, I like this guy. This is the guy I like, right? You wouldn't do that in target Democrats, but you would do it in target Republicans, would you not? So there's all kinds of really cool ways to think about how you could use this and be really, really under the radar, right in their face, and them go, wow, he's just like me, right? So there's a lot of things we'll be testing with that and seeing how well we do with it. But I think that, again, because I'm very branded in my market, I can leverage some of those things. And even if I wasn't, there's some other ways to do it. So anyways, that's it. That's the process that I would go through. So that's the best description I can give you of how to go out and dominate the listing side of the business in the proper order, really no matter what marketplace you're in, and invest your dollars wisely. So hopefully that was valuable and it gave you some perspective on the way to grow your business all the way to the highest end and go from there.